So I am going. Here is kind of what I wanted to do. I created this video. If you can also, one thing that would be helpful for me using this new software and this kind of new microphone setup and everything, if you could just type in the chat to let me know whether you can hear me, that would be great. If you can see me, hear me, all that kind of stuff, I would love that. And then here is how today's going to work. I really wanted to go live because reading through the whole Bible. Okay, so yep, you can hear me. Good. Fort Worth can hear you. I've been told I have it loud, but all the way to Texas, nice. Little over 2 weeks ago, I created a video or released a video called "Don't Read the Bible in a Year and Do This Instead." And it really is kind of my approach to how I read through the whole Bible rather than teach through that whole thing again. I had no idea. Sometimes when you put things on YouTube, you have no idea what's going to really resonate. Well, that video that's only been out for 2.5 weeks has now become, I think, the 6th most watched video on my entire channel. And it has almost 300 comments on it, several of which were questions. And I thought those questions were really good questions. There were some of them, and there were some people that I could tell from their comments didn't watch the video because they're like, well, of course you should read through the whole Bible. The whole Bible's valuable. And I'm like, yeah, well, if you saw the video, then that's not what I was saying at all. So, but I wanted to, there are 6 that I pulled out that I felt like, you know what, these would be videos would be questions that would be good to answer kind of in a big group. So I've created this snippet that I can put on the screen. Good. I love seeing everybody here. We've got some are just letters and names. I see Lisa Megner. I see the Walking Bible. I like that. The Walking Bible from Ghana. I'd like to know where that name's from. Kim Sheffield. Good to see you, brother. Coffee Gal. Okay, now you may have just become my favorite right there, Coffee Gal. So anyhow, so that's what today's going to be. And then I just thought I would stick around. Those of you that are here want to just have any other questions, whether it be about the whole Bible, reading through the whole Bible, and before I dive into those questions. The reading through the whole Bible is something that so many people want to do, especially at this time of the year. And most people set out to do it in a year, and a vast majority of people quit. And I was challenged back in 2009 by a guy who was at that point in his 60s, and he had been challenged when he was in his 20s to read through the whole Bible in 6 months or less. That turned into him reading through the whole Bible at least twice a year for 40 years. So he had and sometimes 3 times. A couple times he went away with a buddy and they read the Bible like in a cabin they got and read through the whole Bible in 2 weeks. Crazy, amazing stories. But 2010 was the first time that I read through the Bible quicker than a year and realized that everything that I knew about kind of brain science, how our brains work, how we learn from the general to the specific, how watching a movie before studying the scenes is important and you don't pause it at the end of a scene and do all these things that I've taught for so long. When it comes to how we go about reading through the whole Bible, when we read 1/365th of the Bible each day, we are teeing up our brains to not really get engaged and enjoy it. And we are creating this kind of checklist mentality that as soon as you fall behind, that's where most people quit. And so anyhow, that is what kind of that whole, okay, so somebody's saying I'm about to be done with my most recent read through. Start at the end of last May. So you're at whatever that is, 7 months or something like that. So that's good. And and I'll just take these questions one at a time. And then if people want me to go through more of kind of what I do when I'm reading through the whole Bible and kind of teach some of that, I'm happy to stay on and do that. But for now, I wanted to make sure that I start out by addressing the questions that were actually asked. So the first question was, somebody put in there, I find Proverbs to be very difficult to read through. There seems to be so many disconnected thoughts. Every sentence can be about something completely different. Does anyone have any tips how to get through when you're trying to read multiple chapters at a time? And that is such a great question. And I've got a few different answers for that. So I agree that Proverbs, Psalms, that to sit down and say, I'm going to read 10 chapters, that feels different when you're reading Genesis, or you're reading a gospel, or you're reading Acts, or something that's a narrative, or you're reading a letter like First Corinthians or something like that has a flow and thought process to it. But Proverbs, Psalms, I believe that while you certainly can, and there's value in studying those books, I believe that first and foremost, those books are meant to be experienced more than studied. And so, and there isn't this overarching kind of watch the movie value, because there is so much that stands alone. And so that is why one of the benefits of reading chronologically, which is in the order the events actually happen, as opposed to just in the order the books appear in your Bible, is that you end up, especially with Psalms, you end up putting a handful of Psalms at the time that the events were, when David was there, when Asaph, or whoever it was that wrote the Psalm or the proverb. So you're reading less. You're not just reading through the whole book of Proverbs or all of Psalms at one time. So I would say reading chronologically. And again, if you don't have my free chronological reading plan that I think I had, I gave it away. But you can just go to keithfarron.com/chronological, and you can get that for free. And the other is, oftentimes when I am reading through the totality of Scripture, when I am reading a lot, I'm reading for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, something like that. And what I do with Psalms and Proverbs, I will frequently take those and I will do those at a different time of the day. So if you're talking about reading through the whole Bible in 6 months, then you've got 150 Psalms and you've got 31 Proverbs. So you take Psalms and Proverbs, and if you read one of those a day at a time, like before, if you normally read in the morning, then maybe before you go to bed, you read a Psalm and you just, or a proverb, then that 3 months is going to be 181, 2, 3 days, and depending on where the 31-day months fall, and you can kind of walk through it in addition to the regular reading, and it doesn't feel like you're adding a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, you're taking 181 chapters out of the, I think, 1189 chapters, 87 in the Bible. And so that's a significant, that's about 10%-ish, a little more than 10% of the Bible you're taking and doing at a time that it doesn't feel like you're adding minutes. So that's actually another way to do it. So those are probably the two. Put it into the chronological reading, or read it at a completely separate time. And I even had times, because some of the Psalms are going to take you a handful of seconds, right? Some of the Psalms are 4 verses. And then you've got Psalm 119. That's the longest chapter in the Bible. But so sometimes I will just read, 5 or 10 minutes of Psalms at a different time. And you're actually walking through it. It's not stretching out over the whole 6 months, let's say. And Proverbs, sometimes I will take Proverbs and I will read Proverbs during one of the months of my read through that is a 31-day month. And so there are 31 Proverbs. I will just do it and do it according to the date. So if I'm doing a January through May read through, then I'll take January or March or May and read through Proverbs. So that can be one that you can do. All right. Second question. And one thing that will be helpful, I'll do a little kind of housekeeping type. There are chats that are coming through. That's great. Somebody got me 1189, so I was right the first time. If you have a question that you want me to come back to later, like I'm going to do these 6 questions and then I'm going to ask questions. If you have a question you think of that you want me to address, one thing that would be really helpful is if you would put 4 question marks at the front of the question and 4 question marks at the back of the question. So that, all right. Do you read to yourself or do you read out loud? And which is better? If you feel that a verse touches you and God is speaking to you, do you stop and journal that down and think about it, or do you just keep moving? And so 2 questions there. I pretty much exclusively read out loud. The first question is really easy for me to answer. Once I started reading out loud, I pretty much never went back. It's something where I read out loud constantly. And unless I'm in a situation where I'd be bothering somebody. And so reading out loud, I just find that for me, when it comes to focusing, the wandering mind has always been something that I have struggled with a ton. And so, I just find that reading out loud kind of changes that. And I also got a notification. I'm just going to check really quickly. I just got a notification that my internet disconnected. So I want to make sure that it is actually still running. So if somebody can actually comment, because I haven't seen a comment come in a little bit. So I'm wanting to actually comment. Okay. Because I haven't seen a comment. Okay, good. In a little bit. It is still working. Good. All right. So that reading out loud, I absolutely think it can be helpful. So I saw somebody just put in here, audio Bible as you, audio Bible as you read along. That can be really helpful as well. So, but this idea of reading out loud, I found very few people for whom it's not helpful. And so, and you not only do you stay engaged more, but when it comes to remembering and retaining, just different studies on what you only read silently, what you hear, only hear, and what you read and hear. So whether that's using an audio Bible, like somebody suggested, or whether it's that it's your own voice, and whether it's an audio Bible. So that can be really helpful for reinforcing. All right. The second part of this question, if you feel that a verse touches you and God is speaking to you, do you stop and journal that down? If I'm reading through the whole Bible, I tell people there's a difference between Bible reading and Bible study. I believe both are massively important, just like there can be value in just listening to music and studying how that song was crafted. And if you're a musician, I love sports, times where I'm just wanting to watch a game. And other times when the strategy of it and learning the stats and getting to know the players, the deep study it can be super valuable. And so Bible reading and Bible study, I see as both really, really essential. And so when I'm doing a rapid Bible read through, that's something that I am setting out to kind of force myself, if you will, to pause my natural inclination to study everything deeply and to stop and ponder and do word studies and do backgrounds and get all context and all that kind of stuff. And so what I do is I keep my I use a digital notepad. I use OneNote to keep my notes, but I just keep that next to me. And when I see something that I either want to do a deeper study on, or I have a question about, was confusing, or a person I want to look more deeply into, or a custom or something, then I just jot that down. And I either, if it's something that I want to, that I feel like God is speaking to me as far as I need to apply, then I'll find a different time, or I'll finish my read through and I'll spend an extra 5 or 10 minutes looking at that, or whatever it is, or journaling about it, or pondering through it, or praying through it. But I don't stop in the middle of my reading. I just pause, jot something down, and I keep reading. Oftentimes, what I started to do after about a couple years of doing the rapid Bible read through is I will take those notes, and whatever notes I write down during the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months that I'm doing a rapid Bible read through, those notes and that deeper research becomes my next month. Because another problem, and this didn't even get addressed in the original video or in any of the questions, but is very common, is people will do a read through, whether it's a year, whether it's 3 months or whatever, they'll do a read through. And it's such kind of a big accomplishment that I've had people tell me that after they finish their read through, they didn't have a plan for what they were going to do next. And they ended up not reading for a month or two, and sometimes longer. And so I think that having that plan of, hey, I'm doing this read through and I'm already positioning myself to do some deeper study with some of the things that I've seen can be really, really helpful. All right. All right. Question 3. Is there an advantage to setting a deadline like 6 months to finish reading the Bible? Seems like that's putting a lot of worry, stress, guilt into this project. Now, that's a good question and a good concern. What I would say is, in your initial planning, like when you're sitting down, it's January, you say, I want to read the whole Bible. What I would do is I would give yourself a timeline, like an idea of a timeline of when you want to finish. Like, let's say you've got a big trip in July and you want to be done before the end of June, and it's now January 16th. And so you're looking at this and you're like, I've got 5.5 months, and you do the calculation and you see that's X number of days, 165 days, whatever it is. What I would do is I would set aside an amount of time that will position me to finish in that time period. I wouldn't set it as a goal that I have to be done by this day, and I've broken it up exactly into the number of chapters I have to read each day, because that whole checklist mentality is what gets a lot of people in trouble. Not only does it feel like failure the time that you miss a day, which in a 6-month, 12-month read through, it's much, much more common for people to miss a day or two than for people to never miss a day. And so it's something where if you just set, hey, I need to read, I'm just going to make up a number. I need to read 7 chapters a day to be done by the time I want to be done. So I'm going to read these 7 chapters so I can be done by this date. That, I believe, can lead to a lot of pressure and worry and guilt and all of that. But if you look at, okay, I need to average 7 chapters a day, then what I would do is I would sit down, and the average chapter of scripture is going to take you about 3.5 minutes. If you're reading out loud at a normal rate of speed, take the short chapters, long chapters, about 3.5 minutes. So every couple chapters is 7 minutes. You're going to read 7 chapters. You're going to be doing 7 to 21, about 25 minutes. What I would do if I were you, JQ Rose, is I would say, okay, for me to be done in 7 months, I'm going to read for 30 minutes a day. What that does is that positions you to always be ahead. So I saw somebody just said no sound. Other people, I think, can other people hear me? That's the first person I've heard that said that. But this idea of when you read for an amount of time and you put an extra 5 minutes onto however amount it's going to take you to just hit it spot on, then most people don't miss days in the first week or two. Well, just think about that. If you read for 2 weeks very consistently and you've added 5 minutes more than you need to read the 25 minutes, then in those first 2 weeks, 14 days, then you're going to have almost a 3-day buffer. So let's say that you get the flu, or one of your kids gets the flu, or something happens at work where you only get 10 to 15 minutes to read. You're going to already have that buffer, and that really deals with a lot of the worry, stress, guilt. There have been times where I've set aside 6 months and I finished in 4. There have been other times where I've set aside 4 months and finished in 6. And so when it comes to that deadline, I think it's great from a planning standpoint, but I don't. If the goal is reading the Bible relationally, then if you I just see that my friend Eva just jumped on, and one of her phrases that I've stolen is it's connection over perfection. And I think that's very, very true in a read through, is that your goal is to be in relationship with Jesus. Your goal is to connect with God and hang out and be in his presence and see how he has worked throughout history, and much more than I need to hit July 1st as the day that I'm done. So there you go. All right. So that's question 3. Question 4. And then, it put it up here. Let me see if I can drag that down. Somebody said, who would read a book series out of order? And I think that was in my comment to the chronological. This is, and I don't know if somebody was just making a joke, or if they were kind of joking about the fact that I was talking about a chronological and who wouldn't do that. What I have found is the people who read chronologically very rarely ever go back until they get to the point where they're really, really familiar with the Bible. So quick note on chronological. In general, is the Bible written chronologically? Yes, Genesis happens before Revelation, and Matthew, Mark, and Luke happen in the middle of that. And all, yes, it's generally written, but the way that I like to say is, especially when you get to, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, you've got big, huge, something hundreds of years of historical narrative. And then there are some, like Isaiah, a lot of the prophets, Isaiah, you've got Isaiah and Jeremiah, whatever, are people and writings that happen in the midst of that narrative. So to pause reading the narrative story to read the prophecy that was written during that time can be really, really helpful. So whether you have, again, my chronological reading plan, just go to keithfarron.com/chronological and get it for free. Print it out, 2 pages, just 1 page back and back. Or I think I might have given away my chronological. This is, if you want a physical Bible that is put chronologically, this day-by-day chronological Bible, it's CSB, but there are lots of different translations that have put together a physical chronological Bible. I really, really, really like this one, because everything that is not scripture, that is just kind of like your daily, almost devotional type of thing, is put in blue. So you can actually, if you want to, you can skip that. You can just read what is in literal black and white and walk through the whole Bible chronologically, but with just using a bookmark and not having to go back and forth within your regular Bible. So this day-by-day chronological Bible is really, really fantastic for that. All right. 2 more questions, and then I'll go. Again, if you've got a question you want me to answer later so that I can find it in the list of scrolling comments, just put 4 question marks before it and 4 question marks after it. And it's going to make it easier for me to find. So, all right. I don't know how to stop my brain while reading. It says, what is this? What does it mean by this? What does it mean by that? What is this? What does it say that? All this. And although my eyes are reading and my brain is no longer moving forward without the answers to my questions, the words just become letters on the page. My brain is stuck. I know this might sound a little crazy, but it gets very frustrating. I hear you. I've said many, many times, you've probably heard it in some of my videos, but the number one most common problem that people tell me they have is consistency. They struggle with finding a consistent time or becoming consistent or staying consistent. Consistency shows up for 30 years of doing this. That's the number one challenge. Number two most common challenge is the wandering mind. I am just reading and my brain is off. And I just, my eyes are scrolling the page, but I'm not really tracking. And so when it comes to the wandering mind, I've already mentioned reading out loud. And I think that when we read out loud, I won't go into that deeply again, but we just engage different parts of our brain. I tell people, go ahead and read the Bible out loud like you're reading Curious George to a 5-year-old. If I handed you Curious George Goes to the Zoo, you wouldn't read it with a monotone, blasé voice. You would give the characters voices and you'd read it animated like if you were reading it to a kid. And I tell people, go ahead and give the Bible characters, accents. I mean, they were speaking Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic, so they didn't sound like you anyway. You're already not sounding like them, so you might as well sound interesting. And so reading out loud is a huge piece of that. I have found that sometimes there are lots of different things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come back into, I can't do it now while I'm live streaming, but I'm going to come back into the description of this video after I'm done. And I'm going to put a link to that chronological free printout. And I'm going to put a link. I've created another free PDF resource called Help for the Wandering Mind that goes into 5, 6, 7 different ideas for how you can deal with the wandering mind. But reading out loud is one of it. I think that, again, when we read more, when we read bigger chunks, our brains engage differently. You may have heard in a different video on this channel that studies have shown that it takes about 10 minutes of reading anything before our brains naturally kick into that kind of storytelling mode where we see the characters and hear their voices and picture the scenes and all of that, which is why if you pick up a novel and you get distracted after a page or two, your kid comes in or you have something going on, the next day you start over because you don't remember it, you weren't engaged, you didn't think about it. And so when you read kind of 15, 20, 30 minutes or longer, then you will have already gotten into that. And the next day, it won't take you the full 10 minutes to get back in there because you'll already be remembering and you'll be able to pick it up. So just simply reading more will be helpful. Reading out loud, I find that it sounds funny, but one of the things that I've talked about over and over and over again is, especially during a read through, make sure that you have people that you're getting together with to discuss what you're reading. Because when you are looking forward to meeting with somebody in a few days to talk about this, you're going to remember some different things that you want to bring up, or you're going to jot that down in your notes. Over the course of this week, I've read 50, 60 chapters, so I can't talk about everything, but these are the 3 stories or questions or ideas or insights or whatever that I do want to discuss. And when you are looking forward to having that conversation, you'll stay focused differently. And then when you have that conversation and somebody else has seen something that you didn't see, you've seen something that you've helped them get more excited, they've helped you get more excited. When you're looking forward to it, when you're enjoying it and looking forward to what you're going to discover, it's easier to focus on something you're looking forward to than on something that is just a task you need to do. And so that I've shared in many videos my frustration of all the tips, of all the suggestions, of all the challenges that I've given about how to read the Bible and truly, truly enjoy it and become consistent. The most ignored piece of advice that I give is get together with people and talk about it. People think they don't have time. People don't think they'll be able to find anybody, whatever it is. And it's a game changer. Because when we have people to talk about things, with anything that we do in life, I don't care whether it's watching sports or cooking or reading the Bible, when we talk about it with other people, we get more interested, and we not just keeping each other accountable, but it just becomes more fun to have people that we talk about things with. And so having that, and if you don't have anybody and you want somebody, come join us in the BibleLife community. I started the BibleLife community on April 1st of 2020, because you remember what happened in February and March of 2020? In April of 2020, I knew that I was going to need people to hang out with. And so I started the BibleLife community thinking that it would be something I would just do during COVID. Well, it's now 5 years later, and here 6 years later, and here we are still going. So go to BibleLifeCommunity.com and you can join us there. People can share. You can share every day and ask questions and interact with people and say, hey, who's studying this book? You want to study it together? Whatever. It's just a place where we can do that, as well as I have live Q&As like this, but on a Zoom thing where we can see and hear each other every month as well. So if you need that community and you can't find somebody to sit down, I always think it's better if you can find somebody to sit down with in person. But if you can't, then we would certainly love to have you in the BibleLife community. All right. Last question before I take all of your questions. Thank you for this post. Question: what do you think about the story, NIV, or Walter Wangerin's The Book of God, the Bible, as a novel? And then somebody else asked about the Message. And I think I have a copy of the story somewhere over there. But here is, some people see the Message, which is, a paraphrase, the Bible in contemporary language. This is the one to talk about the Book of God, which is, again, kind of the Bible as a novel. And here's what I would say. Any of the, the Bible as a novel, the story, the Message, the Voice Bible, some of these different ones, I think they're perfectly fine as a supplement, as another voice in the conversation. But I would never make any of those my main study Bible. There are so many good, solid translations that I would suggest. Get yourself a BSB, a CSB, an ESV, an NIV, an NLT, and get a Bible that is readable to you, but that is an actual translation, not a paraphrase. Now, there have been times when, because I've done the Rapid Bible Read Through. I mean, I, again, started in 2010. So I've read through the whole Bible in 6 months or less 15 times. And it's something where there have been times where I read the Message, or I read a different translation that isn't my primary study translation, that's a little bit kind of lower reading level translation that's just kind of there for readability. And I'm fine with that if that's not your study Bible. If you don't own a Bible and you're going to buy a Bible, that's not the first one. Don't do that. Search my channel for Bible translations. You'll find a couple different videos on how to find a translation that really fits you. But anyhow, I think some of those are great. And the analogy that I use is, if I'm getting together with people to talk about the Bible, and I say, hey, John, tell me, what you saw in chapter 1 of the Gospel of Mark. Well, that's going to be really cool to hear what he has to say and to hear how he heard it and all that kind of thing. But if I'm not reading it on my own and I'm just getting his paraphrase, then I'm missing God's intent for studying the Word. And so it's something where I think that sometimes when we just go to a paraphrase, we just go to somebody's adaptation of Scripture, and that's the only thing we're doing, we're missing God's intent for us being in the Word. But if we're in the Word and we've got a good solid translation, and we see, how did somebody who's just trying to paraphrase this, how do they word it? Then it can be kind of like having a neat conversation. So, All right, let me look at some of the questions. I'm going to scroll up so that if I see some questions that were in there, I read Psalms out loud. I can still hear somebody said still no sound, but others are saying they can hear just fine. So I don't know. Did I actually turn that? No, I didn't. Hopefully you can still hear me. I'm doing John MacArthur's. Yes, he said reading chronological is the best for reading straight through. There's sound. It's good on my end. Okay. A couple people don't have sound. I have no idea. I don't know what to tell you. Question: how to start taking notes and what kind are good ones? So I kind of mentioned already a little bit earlier about how I go about taking notes. I typically when I first started doing the read through, I would literally put a Post-it note in the front cover of my Bible. And because I wanted to force myself not to go into deep study mode when I was doing a read through, I would honestly just put the scripture reference down and maybe a word or two that was like a question or explore further or the person or whatever that I wanted to study. And then I wouldn't look at those again until I was done with my read through. Because again, this is not how I can do another video sometime on how I go about taking notes. And I have a video coming out next month about how I use OneNote to take notes. So that will probably answer a lot of those questions. But as far as specifically when I'm doing a rapid Bible read through, I used to use a Post-it note now because I want to be able to see what stood out to me in years past. I use the OneNote app on my tablet, and I'll jot that down. And each year I'll just put 2026 rapid Bible read through, and I'll take notes, and then I can put books. And then if I go back and study it, I can actually just put those study notes at the same time. So, all right. Question. Are you familiar with Halley's Bible Handbook? If so, what are your thoughts? I am not familiar with that one. So I don't know, but maybe I should check it out. Let me know. If it's one that I should check out, then put a comment in this video later, or shoot an email with a link to it to support@keithfarron.com, and love to check it out. I ordered the NLT Chronological. I'm reading Proverbs. That's awesome. Okay. Would like to engage. Okay. I would like to engage my congregation in memorizing 1 John 1. They are in a Bible study in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John. May I share your methodology? 100%. 100% share that. And let me see. There is another. If you go to, I think it's keithfarron.com/internalize, maybe. Okay, so if you go to keithfarron.com/internalize, that's all about my course, my like full-blown methodology course called The Simplest Way to Internalize. So, and you can find out more about that course if you go to keithfarron.com/memorize. Then you'll, oh, no, let me see. Maybe it's memorization. Yeah. If you go to keithfarron.com/memorization, then that will give you a 3-part video series that there's also a playlist, I think, of these 3 on my YouTube channel. And if you search in the YouVersion Bible app, if you have the YouVersion Bible app and you follow my page there, then there is a video series on my page called Bible Memorization for Normal People that gives the high overview of my mindset for internalization, my method for internalization, and one on mastery, kind of how to really get it once you have it down. So if you just want a high level free overview, then I would say either the playlist that's here, the embedded videos at keithfarron.com/memorization, and the the 3-part series that lives inside the YouVersion Bible app, because I first created it for the YouVersion Bible app. If you don't follow my page on the YouVersion Bible app, I've got lots of new content coming out, new reading plans and that kind of thing. I'm doing one right now that I just released last week, and I've got one coming up that just got submitted that will come out for Lent. So you can start that on Ash Wednesday. But go to keithfarron.com/YouVersion, and it will redirect you to my page on that. So, all right. But please share. Please share that. And because you're watching this live, if you check that out and you want those courses, Relational Bible Study, which is my process for studying, and the simplest way to internalize, send an email to support@keithfarron.com, and Eva, my amazing assistant, will send you a coupon where you can get 2 for 1 on those courses. So just send an email saying, I saw your live stream and I want both courses, and she'll send you a BOGO for that. All right, reading for a certain amount of time. Let me see if there are any other questions. I love the CSB. Wish they made a pretty women's Bible in larger print. This isn't a question, but I do know that the folks behind the CSB are putting out a lot of new Bibles. So they've got some really cool ones that are out and that are coming out. So keep your eye open for that. All right. We talked about reading one level down or easy to read. Where does CSB fit into these NKJV, ESV, NLT? I'm unfamiliar with the CSB. Okay. Great question. So I'm trying to think. I believe that on my page, I'm just going to give you, if I go to my channel and I search, so I can give you the, where is it? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find this, get this link. I'm going to put in the comments. I think I can put it in the comments. I don't know if I'm not on my own page, so I can't I can't see. There is a video on my YouTube channel called 4 Questions to Find the Perfect Bible Translation. And that will walk through a lot of those as far as how it fits in from the ones that you specifically said. New King James Version and the ESV, our English Standard Version, are both written at an 11th to 12th grade reading level. And the CSB is written at like a 9th or 10th grade reading level, and the New Living Translation is written at about a 6th grade reading level, all of which are translations. A lot of times the New Living Translation gets a bad rap because of the Living Bible. There was a paraphrase that came out before. People think it's just an update of that. It's not. It's an actual translation. But what they found is while the average native English speaker, which I know a lot of people watching this are not just English speakers, but because these publishers are in the United States and they're coming up with primarily English Bibles first, that what the people at Tyndale, that when I talked with them, the purpose behind the New Living Translation was they found that while native English speakers on average read and comprehend fully at a 10th or 11th grade reading level, that the reading level at which most people get immersed in what they're reading and they're not thinking about the words at all, they're just able to think about what's being said, is the 6th grade reading level. That's where your average person just gets immersed and lost in what they're reading. And so the New Living Translation was taking those original Greek, Hebrew, Aramaic manuscripts and translating it into English at a 6th grade reading level to create an accurate but reading level Bible. That was the purpose of it. The CSB, it's an update of the HCSB, the Holman Christian Standard Bible. And it's a fantastic translation. The CSB and the BSB, the Berean Standard Bible, are both right there at that kind of 9th grade, 10th grade reading level, and are both really readable. I kind of said many times, if the ESV, the NIV, the NLT all had a baby, it would be either the CSB or the BSB, that because they're right there in the middle. That's why I love them so much. They're very, very accurate. All right. Let me see. Totally agree with supplement. CSB is after ESV. Yeah. CSB sits in the middle of. Need to shut down YouTube and bring it back up. Work for me. Okay. What are you? Okay. This is a great question. I get asked this question a lot. What are your thoughts on Professor Horner's Bible reading system? So, if you do a search on Professor Horner or Grant Horner Bible reading system, it is a very, very cool and robust reading plan. So it is not a time-based one. It is an actual reading plan. And what he's basically done is you read 10 chapters a day, which if you read 10 chapters a day, then you're going to finish the whole Bible in 3.5 to 4.5 months. And what he's done is he's broken up the beginning of the Bible and the prophets and Psalms and Proverbs and I don't remember all the different pieces, but you basically get kind of 10 bookmarks and you read one chapter from each of these sections, and you get New Testament, you get Gospel, you get letters, and you're reading, and some of the parts of the Bible you end up reading more than once in the course of the entire plan. But it's definitely I would say, if it's somebody's first time reading through the whole Bible, or you're fairly new to the Bible, you're not really familiar with it, then it would be overwhelming for a lot of people. But if you have read through the Bible multiple times, having a consistent 45-minute to an hour long time in God's Word every day is already a consistent habit you have, then it can be a really, really cool challenge. And the people that I know that have done it and completed it have said the insights they see from seeing 10 different chapters from different parts of the Bible on that same day is really fantastic. So my overall is it's amazing. My asterisk is it can be overwhelming for a majority of Bible readers, especially those who find my channel, which is really geared toward people who are just trying to start building that habit or take the next step, but aren't necessarily already hour-a-day Bible readers. So there you go. Currently doing a 90-day, considering Professor Horner's plan afterwards. Yeah. So I have not done the full complete Horner's system. When I'm doing it, I typically am either, now that I've done it several times, sometimes I'll just read Genesis to Revelation. Most of the time I'm doing a chronological just because I prefer that in there. But I will typically adjust from reading anywhere from 25 to 30 minutes to reading up to an hour. And that will change from about a 3-month reading plan to a 6-month reading plan-ish. But I have not actually done Horner's. I've emailed with him a little bit, and I may tackle it. But it is a very, very robust plan. All right. Is there a topical reading plan? I don't know of a reading plan that sets out for reading the whole Bible that is topical. But you can buy, you can buy topical Bibles. You can just kind of look at topics. I think that things like that, I would actually say is that that's one of the things that ChatGPT or any AI is really good at. Is I wouldn't go to ChatGPT to ground yourself in theology, but for putting together a reading plan, to be able to say, hey, can you give me a daily reading plan for a month that focuses on passages that I could read throughout the Old and New Testament, focused on the topic of joy. That can actually be a really, really cool way to build it, because then it's just organizing information. It's not teaching, if you will. All right. Have you ever split your reading between Old and New Testament? Yes, but not frequently. I have, but I have found for me, when I'm in that reading mode, I just want to be immersed in the story that's actually happening at the time period is actually happening. So I would say the closest I've probably come to that is, and I've started sometimes and then switched back, because so for some people, having New Testament with Old Testament is kind of the thing that keeps them going. And for me, it ended up becoming a little bit distracting, because I wanted to build up to the New Testament as opposed to always having both. But sometimes when I'm spreading out, as I mentioned a while ago, when I'm spreading out the Psalms and Proverbs, then sometimes I will intentionally put the month of Proverbs, when I take a 31-day month and I read the 31 chapters of Proverbs, there will be times where I will intentionally take that 31 days and have those 31 days happen when I'm reading the New Testament. So I've got kind of this Old Testament wisdom, if you will. But I don't typically go back and forth. Other people find it wonderfully helpful. So I'm not against it. It's just not been my preference when I've tried it. All right. Kim said, love the Bible recap. I've heard amazing things about that. I think my mom and mother-in-law are doing that right now. Tara Lee Cobble's done some great things, put a lot of time and effort into that. She also has that particular plan, the Bible recap, built right into the YouVersion Bible app as well, if you want that. So, that's funny. Then I looked down and there you had said that it was there. This person says, I don't see any more questions. Topical Bible. Yeah, somebody said topical Bible is interesting. Yeah. So it's not going to, typically when you search on topical Bible, typically what it's going to do, it's going to have the full text of the Bible, but it's going to have a really, really robust kind of topical index at the back of the Bible. So oftentimes they're even really focused. Like it might be a topical Bible that's focused on apologetics, or a topical Bible for parents, or a topical Bible. So I would just search on topical Bible, or you can just search on reading plan based on the topic that you're looked at. All right. So I don't see any more questions unless somebody has one. But it looks like we've been going just under an hour, so probably about 25 minutes longer than I thought I was going to be going. But I'm glad that you were here. Thank you so much for joining me. And I will be doing more of these lives, especially when questions get asked. So many of the ideas that I have for videos come from questions that get asked in comments of other videos, or that somebody emails me and says, hey, I would love something that goes deeply into this, or whatever. So if you have ideas for videos that you want me to create, then let me know. And I'd love to do it. All right, everybody. Well, have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks, everybody. All right.